and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and today I made a chapstick holder, or it also kind of doubles as those inhaler things from Vicks. Probably more likely what I'll use it for. But it starts out with just a regular 12-string bracelet. But what I did was I put all the blues but one on the right-hand side, and I put all the reds but one on the left-hand side. So the string that stays straight the longest on the right was a red, and the one that stayed all the way to the longest on the left was the blue. And that way there was no little, like normally if you do it the other way, you have to bring all the strings in, and then you have like a little dip where you join in the flat side. So this way, the way that they join actually makes this that way it's really super clean, and it looks a whole lot better. So it's so there's 12 strings to start with. I had estimated that it would take about 40 strings to put together, but turns out, and I'll show you here in a bit how we had added a little bit more string just to be able to get the right circumference. So it's 42 strings of the strings from China. Now, if you're using DMC floss, you're going to need more, but by doing it this way, with, you know, how I just basically have hot colors going to the right and cold colors going to the left, you can add strings until you get that right size, until it's really perfect. And that's the whole point. So I did this as a way of being able to find out how many strings and then be able to actually use what I've created. So that way, like the next time I could maybe set a pattern to it. Mind you, 42 is really hard to set a pattern. Okay, so here I put, again, red going to the right, blue going to the left. I basically just lark's head those two strings together. And now I'm going to, again, with the lark's head, add string to it. I kind of screwed up with the red first. It was supposed to have been the blue first, but that's okay. I can fix it. So yeah, blue goes around this side, so that way with the red knot we go off to the right, and there we go. There's the start of it. So now I start piling on the string, and this takes a while, but and in turn it works out. I knew that from the other piece that we started with, the bracelet like thing, that it was coming down 5 knots, right? So like when this thing connects to the other part or whatever, it's always like in 5s, which worked out really, really cool. And that kind of turns out like it's better than what happens later on in the video. But yeah, it's 5 knots here to join up with the 5 knots that's on the other, so I get a nice straight row of the hot colors coming down. Now the hot colors have, well, like there's a pink in there, there's reds, orange, there's even a yellow. So yeah, kind of a randomized thing. And this is a great way to use up some of the extra floss that I have, because when I cut my string into thirds, like I'll have 1/3 left over for all those times where I used the 2 strands for something. So this works out really, really cool for me, because it allowed me to use that string into a project that I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with. So yeah, at this point you could kind of measure it out, like put it with the other bracelet or whatever. But when I joined the bracelet and this together, before I join the other side to turn it into a cylinder, that's when you check to make sure you have the right amount of string to make it turn out properly. So yeah, there's a little ways before that, but it's kind of like when it's just on here and you try to measure the 2 pieces, like it kind of gives the wrong impression. So you kind of want to leave that room open to make sure that what you're going to have enough strings. Because like I said, my original thought was this was only supposed to be 40 strings. So here's that segment that I made that was flat, and the bracelet that I made. I'm going to bring the two together. So two different clips holding them close. You'll see I kind of have to shift things around. I almost grabbed the wrong string. Yeah, see, I see the other red and I'm like, wait a minute, something's there. So yeah, the string that was underneath everything is what's going to go straight onto where the bracelet is. And you need those two things to be really close to each other. So that way, when you tie the knot, it just brings the two pieces together perfectly. And it's really seamless. It's really hard to tell how those come together like that. And so now this comes down for 5, which leaves out the middle of the next one, and then this one will come down 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And they're joined. Once you have this together, you then put that around your cylinder and make sure that it's gonna connect okay. So mine did, so that was awesome. But if I needed to, I could have added a couple more strings on until it fits. So that's definitely recommended if you're using a string, like I said, other than mine. Now, obviously, all my strings are doubled up because that's kind of how it ends up when you flip it over the thing. So if you're not used to that, you kind of want to do it for this project. It's a whole lot easier than trying to do this in a single strand anyway. So yeah, it's just how it kind of works. So now I've got this thing where it's nice and flat and I can work on it easily. So I went ahead and I put in the blue going in the opposite direction. So this whole thing is kind of just forward and backward knots. There's no zigzagging, there's nothing else involved. I tried to make it as simple as possible so that way pretty much anybody could do this. You're just going to need a lot of string is all. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I could, once I knew how many strings there are, I could go design a pattern for it. But again, if you're using a different string, like yours didn't come from AliExpress, then you want to do the same process as what I've done here to see what your number of strings are, because otherwise you could really run a chance of ending up with something unusable. You know, you'll get the cylinder, but it'll be too small to actually put the chapstick into. So that's why I kind of included this part here and wanted to talk about it, is that way you have that room to extend it as necessary. And then at the end of all of this, you can count out the strings and your second one can have an amazing pattern. Now for 42, I haven't worked out what kind of patterns I can fit into there. That's why this is the chapstick holder number 1. Chapstick holder number 2, I don't know when I'll get around to it, but it's going to include some kind of a more intricate design. I don't know what that'll look like. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun to try. Maybe I do something with 2 colors and make it really crazy. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, because 42 is a hard number to work with. I might up it to 44, just because that is at least, you know, maybe easier to divide numbers into. I don't know, but then it's kind of might be too not tight enough to really hold the thing on the inside. So there you go. But yeah, I measured this to make sure everything was going to fit okay, and then we have to join those 2 sides together. So it's basically folding it and getting it together like that, and then yeah, it just becomes a cylinder at this point. And I have to say, like having it pinned down like this, definitely not the easiest way of holding it in place, but or to get the strings right, but it's kind of you have to do it for at least a little while. So yeah, the first strand's like 5 knots, and then it's 4, 3, 2, 1, like before. But then you have the blue strings, which that's a whole bigger issue at this point, you know, because it connects over where the reds were and more. And yeah, you could probably, even with this, you could even kind of mess with the patterns, like how I did the one that looks like the Atari aliens. That could have been done with this as well. There's a lot of other things you could do. And I did like 5 rows and then went the other direction for 5 rows. You can, if you wanted to, you could just continue the reds and never use a blue at all. And that would be a look. It'd be different. Obviously, you would use the red a lot more. But if your strings are long enough, it's not even, the whole thing isn't even like close to a bracelet length. So yeah, it totally did not need to have the blue at all. It could have just kept going around with reds. So there's a lot of possibilities of like what you could do with the pattern. In mine, I went 5 red, then the 5 blue, then 15 red, 5 blue, and then 6 red, and then brought out the little diamonds at the end. You'll see that later on. But yeah, I kind of wanted to play with it. I wanted to give you guys ideas of what you could do with it. But yeah, there would be a whole lot of different ways that you could approach this if you wanted to, if you're so inclined. Yeah, I kind of want to give you guys the know-how to make it more personal, because well, I've seen other people do videos and they're like, the first step you do is this, and it's so dictating that you have to do everything exactly the way they did it, and there's no room for creativity. And I don't believe in that at all. I think that if you want to make something like this, you should have all the tools to be as creative and as wild and fun as possible. Again, I'm also trying to prevent you from making mistakes, such as not getting the size right because you're using a different kind of string, or, you know, the little shortcomings that could happen as a result of doing this. So yeah, there you go. We're past the halfway point of this video. I skip a lot of stuff to do this, but let me just thank my Patreon supporters who make this possible. Obviously, a project like this used a lot of string. So yeah, I'm really thankful for your guys' support. And hopefully this gets out there and a lot of people want to try the project. And yeah, it's through your guys' help that I get to inspire everybody to do neat things. So this is the row where I went 10, and it turns out the problem with that is you got to kind of move across the whole thing an awful lot to make it work. So now I use a clip held down by a clip, but this way I could it was a little bit easier to rotate it around and kind of keep in charge with it. To be honest, it probably would have been easier if I just did 5 and then 5 again and then 5 after that. Because doing 10 meant I had to move it around an awful lot, and it was just kind of nerve-wracking as to how flip it this way, rotate it around, flip it back. It was not pleasant. 10 strings was a little too far for this. But I got through it okay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all done. But just so you know that smaller increments is probably faster, because you're not having to keep rotating it a little bit and then rotating it back. So hopefully that helps somebody there. I'm sure if somebody had mentioned that to me, I'd have been like, right, that makes perfect logic. Of course that makes sense. But yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish I'd made this during one of my live streams, so then you guys could have watched it in real time. This all got done in one afternoon. I don't know how much time was actually spent on it, but it wasn't that terribly long. Again, it's a lot shorter than a bracelet, so it kind of went by kind of quick. So yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead, I'm sure, in this where it goes down quite a ways. But it's still just the same thing. It's just candy stripes in a cylinder, right? Another stripe gets put in there. And then I wanted to kind of make the base of it kind of make sense. And it's 42 strings. So I started out with 11 and brought them 11 strings, brought it all into a diamond, and then kind of finished it up as though I was finishing a bracelet. And then rotated it, which took 10 strings and kind of brought the diamond down, finished it up like I always do a bracelet, and then 11 and then 10. So it's 11, 10, 11, 10, and just these little triangles. And you'll see like, you know, over the 1, over the 2, over 3, over 4. Yep. And then do the next section like that. And then I kind of just gave it all a twist and put it into one big knot at the bottom of it. Yeah, I could have done it differently. I think the big knot is a little bit extreme, but maybe on the second try we'll try something different for it. I do like how the diamonds sort of come together. It leaves little gaps in there in case dirt or something got into it. That can come out pretty easily. It's just the really big knot that kind of I'm not a huge fan of. So maybe we'll try something different next time around. But yeah, you can see like just bringing it into the diamonds and then doing the same trick like at the end of a bracelet where you just go over the first one, the second one, the third, all the way down. Just brings all the strings into the bottom part. I couldn't actually tie the knot on screen. I had to pull it away so that gets skipped. But the reveal here is coming up. Oh, and the chapstick's inside of there. That's why it's holding its shape while I have it clipped. Is that I actually have the chapstick is inside the tube. Otherwise, it would have flattened out. And yeah, a little bit harder to do, I think. But yeah, here comes the big reveal. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. If you did, hit like, leave me a comment. And as always, don't get your strings in a bunch.